Okay, let's have a chat now with Associate Professor of Law, Arise Analyst, Dr. Sam Amadi, on some of these developing stories, although we'll still talk about the political development, particularly the 61 legislators who are canvassing for parliamentary system of government. But insecurity in the land is becoming something else. We hear very authoritatively that since the beginning of this year, 3 months into the new year, the Nigerian Armed Forces have not received operational operational cost to run the various operations, the various formations. How, worse can that be?
I think it's tragic because, look, the critical issue today is insecurity, multidimensional. So, and a government that is focused on trying to deal with economic crisis must deal with security crisis. As a matter of fact, today, it's intertwined. Any policy on economic development that does not mainstream security is a wrong policy. Think around the food crisis, largely a function of
insecurity. The farmers can't access their farms.
They can't go back to farm. We miss out farming cycle. We can't even double our production of food. And even the logistics of movement is constrained by security. It's difficult to pass through from here to Abuja by road to maybe southeast, southwest, and vice versa. It can move easily. So essentially, the insecurity kind of constrains the whole value chain, whether from farming to transport to market. Again, think in terms of even the fact of banditry. Look, you can't just think about economic development and isolate the north. This is really a large part of Nigeria. So if we're talking about development, productivity, we've got to make sure that those places, look at Kaduna, if bandits can make away, go away with, spirit away, so to say,
over 280
children, spirited away. You wonder, are they going to truck them? If it has come to that point. So you don't want to hear that the military, that there's some deficit in terms of funding, structure, strategy.
It's a big issue.
So we shouldn't be hearing about that. And now the president has given a charge that they should rescue these pupils. How would they deliver on this mandate if we're still
when funds are not being released to them? Can you imagine the military begging contractors, please extend the duration of the credits to us to supply, basic items like fuel, feeding the soldiers who will go after the bandits and the terrorists.
And the question then is, what are we then prioritizing? If we've been fighting this way against terror, against banditry for the past 8 years, and we can't deal with these basic expenses.
That bandits will just come into the city and sprint away to about 300 children, just like we saw in Chibok. We saw the other one in Yobe.
The one that happened in Asket of Abuja about 2 months ago, when the kidnappers took the families away. Even Torchlight, the reason why the police couldn't even chase them in that evening was that they couldn't have torchlights.
No, the police went after them. Their patrol vehicle, the immediate divisional...
They couldn't continue the chase into the forest, but they have torchlights.
They even came under heavy gun attack where one police officer lost his life.
Fueling even the Brigade of Guard had to fuel a vehicle. They did money from the local government chairman. So the point is that I don't think we are seriously, focusing on fighting insecurity. Again, if you look at parity of government, look at the provisions that are necessary in the National Assembly budget.
You give each legislator a 163 million naira vehicle. They're securing the lives and property of the citizen is now a handover of a problem.
So that speaks to the fact that I will really focus on solving this problem. Again, each time the elites abstract from the crisis, they have the armored vehicles, probably they're not going to easily visit those sites, they're going to fly in, until that crisis encroaches to the domain of privilege. So if tomorrow we now have that, flying is difficult. Maybe bandits, terrorists are now,
flying
too and causing help. Then we'll take serious. So the leadership behavior, the behavioral pattern of leaders is that they keep retreating to fortresses away from the common experience.
So Amnesty International, from what they said, they're right that the Nigerian government is not being serious in protecting lives and property of Nigerians. And look at, are we at war? 6 million IDPs, internally displaced persons in Nigeria.
The concept of IDP should have been temporal. So you stay there, the government clears the threats and moves you back. But now it's a permanent status. So there are Nigerian citizens whose state status is IDP. So they're not just, they're citizens, but their identity is people in IDP. That's not the idea. The idea of IDPs is that it should be a temporary refuge place for government to go and clear the threat. Now it's a permanent. Nobody's really thinking about how to relocate these people back, because the threat that drove them away, you've not dealt with it. So Amnesty is correct that there's no serious focus on insecurity. And by the way, how can you justify the fact that much of our roads are no longer, people don't travel by road anymore, so with Amadi of military support, police, Mopol. We saw the video of some people going to Anambra in those days during Christmas. Somebody requested for 18 police officers, 10 armed officers, 10 naval ratings to just move from Abuja for the Christmas to just Anambra. So this is, it's tragic. Laughable, but tragic. Yeah. And so the question is, if you can't fund the military and fund operations, not fund bureaucracy. I mean, if you look at the budget, you see that maybe they're not funding, some people are still...
They're not funding the
operations. But people are still funding prerogatives, privileges that do not, feed into direct operational efficiency. And that characterizes the public sector. So one could say, look, the reason why it's tragic is that this is an area that costs life. I mean, you can monkey around with bureaucracy, you can refuse to fund research and innovation and fund, executive privileges, but when you fail to fund operational efficiency in the matter of security, then military, it tells. And that's why we're here now. It tells.
When sometimes we've heard words being bandied, some people are profiting from, these states of insecurity with the some people brought the terrorists to Nigeria, and the bandits, remember, in 2014, 2015, they still roam the landscape free, known to the security apparatuses.
And the people who sponsor them
that's what I was saying. I mean, it's obvious, you get the point. But the issue is that is a government too complicit in playing what you want to call, is it an economics of scale here, or playing politics with the lives of the people?
I think the problem is that we look at government, you need to deconstruct government. Sometimes government is just a phenomenon, but inside are fifth columnists, there are people who profit by crime, there are people who are working with these criminals, there are people whose livelihood depends on more insecurity. You see, it used to be quoted that Abacha says if insecurity lasts for
more than 24 hours, they know that the government is complicit.
So that government is a diversity of interests and people. Some people are working against the other interests. Again, think around it. Look at so-called oil theft going on. Nobody wants to stop it, because if you investigate, of course, I've told us, people in the industry have said that, look, it can't be less than some structured, institutionalized players who have dependencies with government or building government. So the question of insecurity looks like people also profit from this insecurity, and therefore
are the lives an expense of
and therefore
the
they're not willing to fund. So we have kinds of funding strategy. We also have problem of implementation and giving the boys the tools and matching them with the appropriate commanders. We've seen testimonials of retired officers say, look, when some people are among them are actually working against them, not just tools, but also human personnel, leadership that is attuned to enabling them get a job done. So I think there's need for overhaul. And the president, if he really wants to deal with it, and again, if we don't want to security, it can't do with economic recovery. I mean, it's a joke.
The simple overhaul that some people are saying, order the Minister of Finance to release the operational money. So, the Minister of Defense are there, so why holding the monies back?
So, I mean,
so how do you want the military, the average, look, to feed just one day, out of 3 days, just 1,000 naira? Remember, the Chief of Defense Staff came out to say that even as a general, He's only entitled to 1,200 or 500 naira. And how do you expect optimum performance?
Actually, should actually pay more to those in the crossfire officers, because that's what they're going to prioritize to really make sure we win this war. And this is important because, look, in modern terms, fighting security will be expensive. It's cost. I mean, if you look at the budget of countries dealing with crises like this, they're going to spend more on security. So I think we need to, if you look at the budget, we talk about security, but how much goes to the people in the field? Again, timely release and ensuring that it gets to them. And, you know, if you look at, the World Bank has done some research in the past, it's showed that less than 50% of targeted outcomes. So even if they say 100 million, how much of that 100 million gets to the people who need it? So I think this is a national crisis and a national priority. Give our soldiers, our military, our police officers the tools, the finances to fight this battle. Because if you allow, look at the scale in Kaduna, Chibok was less than this. Now, instead of going down, it's scaling up. So it might come to a point where an entire community is taken to, abducted and taken away, and that's not good for business, not good for economy, it's not even good for statehood. It robs at the heart of what it means to be a state.
Yeah. Sam, all right, enough of security issues, and we just hope that the people are listening. Let's look at some political development which your own Abuja Leadership Institute held. And the leader of the House of Representatives, Kingsley Chinda, says the parliamentary system of government will help plug the linkages of corruption replete within the presidential system. Chinda was speaking at a policy dialogue meeting organized by the School of Social and Political Thought in Abuja.
To a parliamentary system of government, I would say it's yesterday. And my reasons are simple. We've tried the presidential system of government, which is peculiar to Nigeria, the type of presidential system that we practice. And clearly it is not working. It is not for the reason that any single person can be pointed at as the problem with this system, but the entire structure is not one that is good enough for us now. The system we practice allows a lot of discretion at the executive arm or those in public office, and I can tell you that people will continue to abuse those discretion.
If we decide to retain the system we have now, it must change the way it is being practiced. And if the easiest way to change is to change the system, then let's go ahead and change the system.
So first, we want to get into the research and look at the structure of Nigeria, the crisis of Nigeria development, how it relates to structure. And then the question around, are there better structure that can guarantee better results?
It's a better structure that can guarantee institutionalizing democracy and its various institutions. Dr. Sam Amadi, I mean, these agitations and the rest, will this really solve the democratic underdevelopment of Nigeria? I mean, I put it in various perspectives. Better than dusting up the 2014 National Confab report, the Jonathan Confab report?
Well, I think some of the things there actually fits in with the proposal on table now. Look, somebody raised at that meeting said, look, how would this change all these abuses? I said, look, the reason why institutions are developed to constrain abuses. For example, if you look at all over the world, the parliamentary system, countries with parliamentary system outperform in economic GDP, those with presidential. It's on the literature clear. They're doing better. If you look at state stability, parliamentary system, because of its inbuilt consensus framework, is also guarantees you more state stability, empirical. If you look at cost of governance, the parliamentary system guarantees you less because you don't need to, the evidence around the representation. So some of the governors are chosen among the representatives. Again, there's something that Chinda pointed out. If you look at some of the legislators don't even understand government policy, including those who are for the same party, because there's no time for question and answers. You can't just frame a policy of the executive in the parliamentary system without you first, every week, the prime minister or whoever faces question time. So it creates a sense in which the governing elites seem to be on the same page. One of the shortfalls is that if it's too representative, it might create partisan, a lot of fragmentation. But back to the 2014, part of the thing they put on the table is decentralization power back to the states or region. That's one of the issues people can canvass. The last 2014 confab presents a framework also that talks about fiscal control, fiscal resources control, talks about decentralization of power. Some people are talking about regional, even if it is not, states coexist within the regional ecosystem. So there could be large-scale socialization of infrastructure development, southwest, northeast, northwest, north central, southeast, south-south. That makes sense. Again, the key point, one of the things that Arewa, the Afenifere guy pointed out very clearly, is that it's too beggarly for people from the southwest to be coming to Abuja to share, in his word, to share the oil from the Niger Delta, when they have capacity to create wealth themselves. The northwest, northeast, they have capacity. If you look at the mineral map of Nigeria, the north is very rich in new rich 21st century resources.
Minerals,
So, but the problem is that the political incentive, the structure, denies them both the discipline, the nudge and the discipline to go and harness those resources. So the structure matters because the structure provides incentive. Structure is not everything. People talk about personnel, human beings, attitude. But the argument from literature of development is that if you have the right structure, they induce, they nudge, they enable, facilitate behavior. So we are saying, look, if you look at the First Republic, and by the way, interesting point, from 1914 to up to the late 1960s, before the war, Nigeria practiced parliamentary at various forms, whether under the military, under the Macpherson, under the Littleton Constitution. It's more parliamentary in nature. And we had better results. Forget that the Civil War was a failure of leadership, but that period was actually a period of both better social stability. Politics was much more homegrown and ideological. Economic performance of the northern region, the western region, the eastern region was phenomenal, better. So the question then is, even if we're not going to go to the full gamut of parliamentarism, can we start experimenting at the local level? For example, local government, why should we have chairman, spend money, elect chairman, elect councillor? Why can't you elect councillors and the councillors elect a chairman in the local government? And then you proceed, if it works well, you proceed to the states. So we're running too many elections, too many executive elections across the 3 tiers.
And too much money in the elections. Billions.
Accountability. Less responsiveness to the people. So what the Peter School is saying is that this is not something legislators can run away with. It's something that we have a whole discourse. Bring experts, bring stakeholders to know, okay, what's the literature that supports, what's the logic, what's the evidence? How can we restructure in a manner that is respond to our own, for example, traditional rulers? We might probably have to find a way for them. It might be adversary. Why should we have spent so much money paying traditional rulers? And they're basically
5% of the local government allocation.
Absolutely.
So much money.
So what should they be doing in a constitutional governance? Where do they fit in? There are too many things wrong with the system. And that's why we have not made progress in both development and in democracy.
Lovely place to drop the anchor there. Thanks so very much. Dr. Sam Amadi and Executive Director, Abuja.
Director, Abuja School of Social and Political Thought.
Thank you very much for coming on this night.